Okay. Okay, today we're going to start the bottom of 26b, Chavavam Bez. It's not really the bottom. It's about 10 lines up. About 10 lines up. It starts the Amarabba. I thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. As chus of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash. Okay.
Amarabba or Amarabba?
The Amarabba. See that? My Gemara even has a little asterisk, a little star next to it. So yeah, in that Gemara, I can have it. But it's the Amarabba.
Isn't that? Huh? Yeah, the Amarabba.
Okay, goes like this. And Rabbah said, V'amar Rabbah, Zara Kelim Reshagag, if someone throws a vessel off the roof, so it's going to break when it hits the floor. However, someone else comes along and breaks it with the stick before it hits the ground. So we learned this Gemara before once. The halacha is pater. The one that threw it is pater because he didn't break it. The one that broke it is pater because it was already considered broken. Follow? Each one has like this exemption. My timer, what's the reason why the one that broke it is exempt? Mana tavira tavar. Broken vessel he broke. It's already broken because it had potentially, it was already, the impact was already there in potential. Kamma Daf, more than potential. It was coming to it. Rabba is another case. Let's say someone threw vessels off a roof. And under it were blankets or cushions, pillows. So it would have not broken if it hit the floor. If someone else comes and removes the pillows and blankets, so he didn't break it, right? Because he didn't even throw it. He just took them away. He was just a gairim. He only caused it to break. And causing, you're not higher for in this world. Higher for in the next world, but not in this world, right? The bigger chiddush here in this statement of Rabbah is not only if someone else came and took it away. So the person that threw it isn't chayav because he didn't break it. It actually wouldn't have broken. But the person that took the blankets away is also going to be exempt because he was just a cause. It's called the grama. But even if the guy himself was able to run downstairs, pull the blankets away before the faster than 9.8 meters per second squared, right? He was able to. What's that from? I think Newton's acceleration, when things fall. So anyway, if he was able to get down faster than that, I would assume he would need a string to do it and not run downstairs. That would be complicated. Can you get down faster than falling? I don't know.
Unless you're falling in the air.
No, but you could run probably faster than falling. I don't know. No? Anyway.
It already bounced on the blanket. It just went up again.
So what happens is he pulls away the blanket. The same guy that threw it pulls away the blankets. So now, what do you mean he caused it and he didn't do it directly? He threw it. Well, no, but he threw it. That was not going to break, and he pulls it away. That's all indirect. It's still going to be exempt. He's the same guy that did both, but you can't pin it on him because he has an excuse. He has a way out by each act and by each action. Okay. My timer, what's the reason? At the time that he threw it, his arrow was blocked. which means that this is an example of someone shoots an arrow, but there's like a wall in the way, and then somehow the wall collapsed and the arrow just made it through. We won't say that he should be chayav for that, because his arrow was blocked at the beginning. The fact that the wall fell, that's like a total accident. So here, when he threw it, it wasn't going to break. They had cushions underneath. Someone, or even if he himself came and took those cushions away. So that's what happened later. Now, are you chayav for taking cushions away? No, that's not. That's just a cause. That's not direct damage. Amar Rabbah gets even more complex. Zorak tinik mirei shagag. Someone throws a baby off the roof. Another one comes and catches the baby on his sword. So, plug to the Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan. This is a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan if it's going to be chayav. If the person that caught him on the sword is chayav. The Tanya, as
He went on the sword or on the sword?
It doesn't tell me exactly, but
It says impaled him.
Impaled him. Okay.
Yeah.
What does impaled mean?
It
Put a sword straight through him.
Yeah.
Well, it's a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira and the Rabbanan. Yehuda ben Beseira was a Tanaic sage during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara tells us he lived in the city of Netzivan. Apparently, it was a little bit far from Yerushalayim. But whatever the case is, the Tanya, we have a braysi, ko asar b'nei adam, asar makles. If 10 people hit a person with 10 sticks, each one has a stick to keep hitting him. Very good. They're all exempt. Because, where did you learn this? Earlier. We learned this earlier in Daf Yud Zayin. Because we say, the pasuk says it's Yake, where I'm Chav Zayin. Right on top. It says Yake kol nefesh adam. He has to hit the whole person. And over here, we don't know exactly which person did the death. They all it was all it's a composite of everyone together. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says no. If each one was taking turns, then the last one that hit him is chayav. And the Shakir of Misasi, he did the last thing. Why don't we say this by everything, that the straw that broke the camel's back, and he should be chayav, the last straw. Why was this only by death that we're saying this? I'm not sure.
When you dig a hole, right, you say 99 chocolate, the guy with the 10
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
When someone's getting out, because the doctor says you can get this much, and we can go one over.
Right.
Because the last trip could be
The last one. Okay, so we said that if someone, this was a case, someone threw a child off a baby off a roof, and someone catches him on a sword. According to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, the guy that caught him on the sword would be chayiv. According to the Rabbanan, he would be exempt because it was like a bunch of people hitting the same person. Okay, now we get into, let's say someone threw this child off the roof, but then an ox comes and catches the child on his horns. Now, when an ox kills an animal, there's a rule, if it's a muad, he has to pay kaifer. You have to pay a certain price, which is called pidyon nafshe. It's redeeming his soul for what he did. Now, look to the Rabbi Shmuel, B'nai shel Rabbi Yechim Breika v'Rabbanan. This case is going to be a machlekes Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yechim Breika, and the Rabbanan. The Tanya was started in the Brisa. V'nasan pidyon nafshe. It says that the person that his animal kills, his animal had to be a muad. If it's a tam, there's a machlekes we had before. Rabbi Yaglili, I think it says tam pays half kaifer, but here we're talking about paying kaifer, paying this price that you have to pay for an animal that kills. So it's a machlekes. One says the main nizik, that's the Tanakama, the Rabbanan. They say you have to pay. It's because it says pidyon nafshe, redemption of his soul. There's a pronoun there that we don't know who the his is. It's redemption of whose soul? The one that died or the one that his animal killed? So the Tanakama says the main nizik. It's the redemption of the soul of the one that died, which means you'd have to give the price of the person that died. Now, what comes out here is that this fellow was a dead duck. he fell off the roof. He doesn't have any price. He's already dead, is already as if he's dead, even before the animal caught him on his horns. No, he was killed by the animal.
Dead man falling.
It was as if he's a dead man. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to the Tanna Kamma, you don't have to pay anything. However, according to Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Breka, he says to me, Mazik, you have to pay the price of the perpetrator, which the perpetrator here was the ox, but it's the price of the owner of the perpetrator, right? Right. So you'd have to pay his price, and he does have a price. So this would be a machlekes between Rabbi Shmuel ben and Rabbi Yochanan ben Breka and the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan would say that he's exempt, and Rabbi Shmuel would say he has to pay. The Amar Rabba has another case. Nafal mireisha gag v'nitka b'isha. I want to take a look at your thing, how it translates this. He falls on a woman. And he fell in a compromised position. So the case is very odd. They must have been both not dressed. And he was on the roof. Yeah, we probably had this somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, we had it in Yavamas. It's relevant for Yavamas. You'll see in a second. He was on the roof, probably sun tanning or something. And she's on down by the pool, probably also sun tanning. And there was one of these places where there's no rules about bathing suits or something like that. Anyway, he falls off the roof. He falls directly on her. And as you'll see, Chayev B'dala Dvarim. He has to pay for not only for the damages, but he also has to pay for the other things, for the pain, and if there's loss of work and doctor bills, all of that. He doesn't have to pay for embarrassment, which I'm sure there isn't, maybe not, but he doesn't have to pay for embarrassment, because embarrassment is only when there's intention involved, as you'll see in a minute. The Yavamte, like kind of the big chiddush here is that even if that woman down there was his deceased brother's wife, where the way that you acquire a Yavama is with relations, and he fell on her, and then there was relations there, so he doesn't acquire her. He doesn't acquire her
Because it wasn't intentional.
Because there has to be some sort of intention, even if it's even if he intended to have relations with a different woman, and because of the dark, Rachel, Leah, whatever, wasn't able to tell. It turns out that it was Yavama. That would be considered that he's married to her. That would be considered Yivam. But over here, there was no relations. There was no intention at all for any relations. He just fell off the roof. He was leaning over to get his drink on the side of his thing, and it tumbled off the roof.
So in the case of Yaakov, the first didn't consummate the marriage.
It did. No, he had tension for Rachel, but it turned out that it was Leah. But here, there's someone falling off the roof, and he had no intention for relations. He was intending to grab his drink from the side of his the cot that they lay on when they suntan, and the thing tumbled over. He fell off the roof, and so that's it. You'll see 1 second. There's one step more to this. But however, chayev b'nesek tzaripa yeshevas abayshus, he's chayev for all of that nezek, which is damage, the pain, doctor bills, and loss of work. But he's not responsible for baishus. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. And you only chayev for baishus if there's, for baishus means embarrassment. If you embarrass someone else, you have to pay for that embarrassment. Only if you intended. It doesn't have to be intention for embarrassment, but it has to be at least be intention for damage, and then. There has to be some intention in the act. It can't just be that someone slipped. Yeah. It was in the yeshiva recently, and there's a bachram, bachram are like teenage, and then there's the girls program that's like in one of the other rooms, but on the steps, they sometimes they cross. So the bachar, one of the bachar was carrying a tray of like baba ganoush and hummus and everything is carrying like on a tray. Coming up the stairs. And the girls from the kids programs was coming down carrying blocks of what's it called? Tiles, magnet tiles. Anyway, the magnet tiles fall, the tray falls. It's like this whole thing, embarrassment, like over there. Anyway, okay. Who pays for that? So who slipped first? I think the magnet tiles fell first, and then okay. V'amar Rabba says, "Nafal mireisha gag beruach sheina mitzuya." If he fell off the roof with an uncommon wind, this is like a hurricane wind. It's going to be relevant. The difference in the strength of the wind, whether you were expecting a wind like that or not. The hizik, and he caused damage because of that wind, ubiyish, and he embarrassed also. He's even exempt from the daled dvarim. He's even exempt from the four things. Besides for the embarrassment, he only has to pay for damage, because a person is always responsible for damage. But this is considered that it's almost like it's not him that did the damage, because it was that hurricane wind. But if it would have been a regular wind, then that's considered that he was Adam Muad Lailam, whatever he does, he's responsible for. Then he's going to be Chayv Dal Dvar and Patal Abaishas, but he's still going to be exempt from the embarrassment because he had no intention at all of doing this, although there is slight negligence. Vimnis Hapich, if while he was falling, he turned himself over. He said, I'd rather not hit the concrete, I'd rather hit this person. So then he's chayiv afal abaishas, then he's chayiv for the embarrassment as well. He didn't intend for them to embarrass the person. He only intended probably to save himself or something. Or maybe he intended to damage the person, maybe. But it doesn't matter. He has to pay for that as well. The Tanya was done in a Bryce Mash Mishnah B'Shal Chiyada in Yedei Shechzika. The pasuk over there talks about, it teaches us the laws of embarrassment. It's talking about two men that are fighting, and the wife of one of the men stepped in and grabbed the person that's fighting with their husband, grabs him in his private area. So it says that was there's a payment of embarrassment that she would have to pay. So it says she stretches out her hand and grabs him in his private area. He actually calls it his embarrassing area. So do I not know? It says he grabs her. Why does it have to say, why does she grabs him? Why does it have to say she grabs? She stretched out her hand. It's coming to teach you. It's coming to teach you that it doesn't need to be intention for embarrassment. It just needs to be intention for damage, and then the payment of embarrassment kicks in. Rabba has another case. Let's say someone puts a hot coal, on another person's chest. Mason, the person died. So the person that put the coal there is pater, because the person should have taken it off. Should have taken it off and survived. He left it there because he wanted to get insurance. No, I don't know what, but the person's exempt. He started a problem, but because the fixing of it is so obvious that you just push it off, so the person that did it is exempt. The same thing happened to the person's clothing. He had a coat. Someone puts a coal right on top of his mink coat. It's very expensive and it gets burnt. So he's chayiv. The person has to pay. The owner of the coat could have pushed it off. Doesn't have to. Says you damaged it, you'll pay for it. I actually wanted to get rid of that coat, or maybe, and I just wanted, and I'm happy that you're going to pay me the money for it. Amar Rabba, Tarvaya Tinani. Rabba, I'm sorry. This was a statement from Rabba. Comes along Rava and says that both of the halachas that you just taught me, if you put the coal on his heart and you put the coal on his coat, both of those, with the heart, with the death, he's going to be exempt. With the coat, he's going to be chayiv. That I have it in Mishnayos. Alibai, when it talks about the heart, Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Kavash alav l'teicha ar. If someone forces a person into like a fire, or into water, and the person can't get up, and he dies, chayiv. The person is chayiv. He killed him. He forces him into a furnace, or he forces him underwater. He holds him down. He holds him in. He pushes him into an oven or something. What was that? Hansel.
Yeah, he did that.
The kids pushed the witch into the oven.
It's not nice. He said kids.
So, so okay. Let's say he pushed him into the fire. Into the water. But the person could get out. There's a lifesaver there. He can just walk out of the oven or whatever it is. But he doesn't, and he dies. Pater, he's exempt. See, I have a clear Mishnah that if the person, when it comes to saving his own life, the onus is on the person to do what he can to save his life, and not just say that, oh, this person was mean to me, so therefore I'm just going to let it happen and he'll be chayav. That's not how it works. However, he can do that with monetary things. If it's his clothing, the Tanan Karas Ksusi, if someone tells his friend, go ahead, tear my coat. Shabar is Kadi. Says, go ahead, break my my jug. Chayav, the person has to pay for it. But he says, you told me to. Says Almanas liftar. But if he says, break it, I won't even make you pay for it, then he's going to be pater. That's a different story. What we're seeing here is that if even with permission, or even with the ability to stop or something like that, but nevertheless the person has to pay. It's only if he says that you're going to be exempt that he's exempt from paying. So we see we have it all clear here in Mishnayos. Okay, now boy Rabba. Rabba has a question. Let's say someone takes a coal and puts it on his friend's slave. So now we have an interesting question. We put it on the person himself, and the person dies, so the person that put it there is pater. If he puts it on his clothing, then the person is chayav. Why? There's a difference between the person himself and his property. What is the slave? Is the slave considered like a person himself, or is it considered like property? So the Gemara says, "Kegufay dami." Is it like a body, which we said would be exempt? Like kimamani dami, or is it like personality, like property? Imtim salam kegufay dami. If you want to accept, if you take the side that it's considered like his body, then shayr mahu. What happens if he puts a coal on his ox? Is that considered like a person? We should be exempt. Or is it considered like property where you should have to pay? Rabba answered, he says that the slave is like a person himself, and the person would be exempt from paying. The slave should have pushed off the coal, and the ox is like his property, and he would have to pay for that. You would think the ox would automatically push it off. But I guess what the Gemara is saying is that you can't really get into the psychology of the ox, why he didn't. And whatever the case is, you can't hold the ox. The ox has no responsibility. Right? The ox has no responsibility. So it's really just the person that did that. Why didn't he push it off? I don't know. But it's not because of any other reason other than the person put the coal on the ox, and that's it. He killed it. Yeah. We said that with that came up if the slave was tied and there was a fire. And in that case also we had an animal that was tied. But the difference over there was that do we say kamle b'dramini? Do we say that because there's a death penalty, because the person burnt the slave, therefore he doesn't have to pay for the gadish and for the goat? Yeah. If the halacha over there would be that a goat that's not tied doesn't have to pay for it, and that would be a question on this Gemara. Taisus asked this, I think. Ebed Kafus. No. Okay, I'm not sure. You bring up a good point. Bring up a good point.
What was the question?
Hillel is asking a question that we had a Gemara before about a goat and a slave that are next to a fire. And the Gemara gave different options. If the goat is tied, but the slave is not tied. If the slave is tied and the goat is not tied. Now, it seemed like from that Gemara that if the goat isn't tied, the owner would be exempt for the person that lit the fire would be exempt from the goat. The problem is over here, we said if you put a coal on an animal, you do have to pay. Even though the animal could have pushed it up. So if that's, I mean, we have to check up that Gemara exactly. But if that's the case, then we have a contradiction over here.
Well, it's the nature of animals to run away from fire, but not all animals have this sense of saving themselves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Except for the salamander.
Yeah, Dr. Stein's talking about a salamander.
Yeah, and mosquitoes or flies sometimes fly into the flame.
Oh yeah?
They're attracted by light.
to light.
And they didn't know it's hot light, and you have a fluorescent light. So that was hot.
I'm thinking about, for example, buffalo. Most animals, if there's a loud noise or someone in the herd is killed, they'll run away.
Uh-huh.
Buffalo just don't have that instinct.
Wow.
They just stand there, and all around them, other buffaloes can be killed, and they just stand there. That's why they were almost exterminated. They don't run away.
Wow. They don't run away when there's a loud noise or when one of the herd is killed.
Just room.
No, these are American buffalo, not cows.
What is that?
These are American buffalo, not cows. Not.
Wow.
Right. Okay, we're up to chapter 3.
But people could be addicted to something such that they don't. This assumes that a human being would take care of himself.
Right.
But like people drink themselves to death, or they do something that
Right.
Who's responsible?
Boxes say smoking kills, but
Uh-huh. So this is the 3rd chapter. Someone places a jug in a public area. Is he allowed to put it there? Probably not. Someone else comes and trips over the jug, and then he breaks it. You would think when it starts saying he trips over it, you think he's going to get hurt. That's coming up next. But first, before start, he trips over it and he breaks it. He doesn't have to pay for it. Why doesn't he have to pay for it? If he broke something, you can't just break things. Well, it looks like it was a mistake. It looks like he tripped over. It looks like it was a mistake. Yeah, it's in a public property. Doesn't mean that if someone leaves something in a public property, you're allowed to break it. This was apparently from the Mishnah was a mistake. It was a mistake. He's exempt. Problem is that I thought people are not exempt from mistakes. I thought other mod lailam. Right.
Doesn't get paid. They should see if the animal does.
That's the person getting hurt. Here he broke the pit, right? He broke a vessel. But if he does get damaged by it, then then the owner of the barrel has to pay for the damages. Now, this is like a pit in a public property, right? It's just sticking up instead of sticking down. But okay, the Gemara says, and if you noticed that when the Mishnah started off, it said if someone places a jug, and then when it comes to the payment, if there's damage, it says the owner of the barrel. So it switched between a kad, which is a jug, and it started talking about the owner of the barrel. There's an inconsistency in this
That's-
Mishnah.
that's the type of-
Yeah, it's a typo. That's what we would say. Where's the editor?
What later defined before, right? That's like it.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes if someone does place let's say like a jug or something that does harm somebody, one would never come to expect that something like that would happen.
Yeah.
You know.
But here,
Yeah.
probably the shards of this, because when he's tripped on it, the shards, it cracked, and then he fell, and he ended up getting cut or something. So, Pasach b'kad v'siyam b'chavis, the Gemara asks that there's an inconsistency in the Mishnah. You started off talking about a jug, and then you ended up saying that the owner of the barrel has to pay. There was no barrel here, there was only a jug. But we have the same story, the same inconsistency in another Mishnah. It says, Zeba b'chavisa v'zeba b'kras. If two people are walking, one's walking with his barrel and one is walking with the beam, you can already see what's going to happen. Nishbra kadi shel zeh b'kras shel zeh. The beam ends up banging into the barrel and breaking the barrel. So it says potter, they're exempt. It says both of them had permission to be there. Pasach b'kad, pasach b'chav v'siyam b'kad, over there it says, look at what it starts. It says this one's walking with his barrel. And then it says the jug broke. It wasn't a jug, it was a barrel. Okay. V'tanan nami, and we have another Mishnah. It says, Zeh b'chavis shel yam, zeh b'kad shel dvash. One has a barrel of wine, another one has a jug of honey. Nistga chavis shel dvash. The barrel of honey cracked. It wasn't a barrel, it was a jug. But the halacha says, it says over here, the guy sees the honey is starting to drip out because of the crack. So he spills out his wine. Honey is more expensive than wine. It was Rashi wine, and it was, what's that type of Manuka honey? One of those expensive honeys or something. So anyway, he spills out the wine to be able to salvage the honey. So, he doesn't have to pay for the wine because the guy didn't make up with him to spill out the wine. He only has to pay him as a worker, which basically means the renting of the barrel and whatever it costs to transport this stuff. But over there we have the same issue of starting. It opens with talking about a jug of honey, and then it says the barrel of honey broke. So Amar Rav Papa says, the reason why the Mishnah is doing this is it's coming to teach us that a jug and a barrel are the same thing. Amar says, why is that significant? That a jug and a barrel are the same thing. What halacha are you coming to teach me that you say jug and barrel is the same thing? It says, there actually is a halacha that this is relevant for. It has to do with business law. Echidami, what's the case? Talking about someone is going to buy a barrel, and when it comes to delivery time, the guy delivers a jug. And he says, this is what you asked for. So it goes like this. Hey, Chidam, what's the case? If no one calls this a jug, if everyone, a jug is not called a barrel is not called a jug. So how could you say that this is what you ordered? Of course, this is not what you ordered. This, no one says this. This would be relevant if someone made a business deal and he says for $1,000 or something, and the guy gives him $1,000 Canadian. He says, "You said $1,000." I said, "No, I meant $1,000 American dollars." They said, "Well, I'm from Canada. I didn't realize that that's what you meant." So then you would have to get into this to see what do people say when they say dollars. What are they referring to? So here we're talking about a jug, and they say when they say a jug, what are they referring, or a barrel? What are they referring to? So it says no, it would be necessary. Most people call a jug, and a barrel, a barrel. But there are those are those that do call barrels jugs and jugs barrels. I could have thought that when the guy gets his order and it's jugs instead of barrels, let's say, well, let's follow the majority, and you have to replace it and get me barrels instead of jugs. The Gemara says, Kamash Malan, the rule is, you don't have to follow the majority. The guy can say, I'm not part of the majority, and this is what I thought you meant, and this is what I'm delivering. This is what I call it. So the guy can prove that that there was awareness that this was not what he meant. Yeah, you got to spell it out. Otherwise, the guy can say, just because there's a majority doesn't mean that you can extract money because you're coming with the majority. I'm not the majority. Yeah, the big discussion in Taisus. Why don't we look at how much he spent? If there's an issue here, we should see what the price is, and we could tell from the price and all that. Okay, the Gemara says, if another person comes, the barrel or the jug is in the public property, and someone comes and trips over it and breaks it, he's exempt. So why was he exempt from when he breaks it? Am I potter? Why is he exempt? It's his fault. He should be looking when he's walking. Classic argument. Why do you put it here? Why don't you look where you're going? This could go on for days. Right? They could argue about that. So, Ami debate Rav, Mishmei de Rav. So it was said in the yeshiva of Rav, in the house of yeshiva of Rav, in the name of Rav. We're talking about that this guy had set the whole street up with barrels and then blocked the traffic. He says, this is crazy. Okay, I'm not going to wait here all day. So he actually goes and he breaks the barrels unintentionally. We say he doesn't have to pay for it because he blocked the way. It's totally not what we understood from the Mishnah. The Mishnah, we understood that he tripped on it and it broke. Rav has a whole other pshat. Shmuel says he really is supposed to look where he's going, but this was at night. It was dark, and he couldn't see, so you can't hold him accountable for that. And therefore, when it breaks, he's exempt. Rabbi Yochanan says that he placed it right on the corner where when you turn the corner, you can't see it. It was like a blind spot over there. You turn the corner, put it in a wrong spot, and therefore the person that broke it is going to be exempt. Amar Rav Papa says, if you look carefully at the Mishnah, it could fit with Shmuel, it could fit with Rabbi Yochanan. It doesn't fit with Rav. My area niskal, why did the Mishnah say he trips on it and he breaks it and he's exempt? Doesn't have to say he tripped on it. Could have said that he broke it intentionally, he'd still be exempt. Why? Because he blocked the whole road. What do you do sometimes? You have to do simchas.
Well, he never knew there was something on the road for him to break.
No, according to Rav, he actually knew that he sees it there, but he can't get through. This would be someone, if they block you in, sometimes at a simcha, you go to a bris or something in the parking lot and people park behind you, and you have a meeting to go to, and there's no way of finding the guy. According to Rav, you just smash through the car and it can go. That's according to Rav. It's like, don't park behind me. Don't block me in. You have to leave your phone number. I'm putter anyway. Why should I leave the phone number?
That's interesting.
Yes, sure.
Obviously.
Everybody's looking, so it's no
Amar Rav Zvid Mishmei de Rava. Rav Zvid answers the question on Rav because it doesn't fit with the Mishnah. The Mishnah says if he stumbled over it, it says who didn't feel shavar. Really, the truth is that the Mishnah didn't mean. We're talking over here. Oh, you mean he can't walk over it? That's what you're asking? To be able to walk over it? The guy had piled them up high. Barrels. That's exactly what Rob said. Knock them over. And that's what he did. I'm sorry?
Ask them.
Oh, that's a good point. He said it doesn't give you a right to smash it. It gives you a right to move it aside. Why are you allowed to break it? I'm not sure.
Driving, it's just
I'm not sure. You have a good point. Shalom is asking a good question.
Around, he accidentally knocks one open.
Right. But we're saying where he's actually, it sounds like he's allowed to actually break it. Maybe you can't move it unless you break it. But okay, so it says, really the truth is he can go ahead and break it. So why did it say if he stumbled on it? Because I did the Bala Mishneh Seifa, because if you read further in the Mishnah says that if the person gets hurt by the barrel, so the owner of the barrel needs to pay. One second. The guy takes a hammer and is breaking the guy's barrel because he can't get through. Now he gets hurt, but because when he's breaking the barrel, the shards start cutting his hand and his face. It says the owner of the barrel doesn't have to pay. The owner of the barrel only had to pay if you stumbled on it. So because the end of the Mishnah is going to say that the owner of the barrel needs to pay for the damage, So that he's only going to pay if he stumbled on it. So therefore, when the Mishnah started and said that if he breaks it, he's exempt, it started off saying he stumbled on it and broke it. And if he gets hurt by it, he's going to be, the owner's going to pay. But the stumbling on it was not relevant for the first case.
But doesn't the
Stumbling on it
owner
was
know
relevant
that's
for the
Hefker?
second case.
It's in the middle of public property, just Hefker. Why would the owner ever have to pay if he stumbled on it?
Oh, so the halacha is, I think, that if there's a bar in public property, even if you make it hefker, I think you have to pay anyway. You can't really make it hefker. You can't just throw your.
Yeah, an animal.
You can't. Let's say you're in the school, okay, and you take your drink after you finish drinking it, you throw it on the floor. The teacher comes and says, "Go pick it up." It's not mine. It's hefker. Can't really make it hefker. It becomes like your responsibility because it was yours and you put it there. It becomes your responsibility. So here also,
Place the jug is different.
I'm sorry,
Placing a jug
placing a
is different.
jug.
If you placed it on the floor, teacher wouldn't tell him to pick it
No,
up.
but because it could cause damage, so then it becomes your responsibility to move it away so it doesn't cause damage. That's it goes under the big category of a pit in public property. Goes also your backpack, your your sandwich, anything that you put in public property goes under that category of a pit. So
In this case, where does the person pay from?
he pays not from the ox or anything. He just pays from his bank. Yeah, it could be. It could be he has to pay from the best. Yeah, he has to pay from the best. Aval shavar loy. My time. What's the reason why if he goes ahead and breaks it and he gets hurt when he was doing that demolition, that the owner doesn't have to pay? Because who does it kind of shay? Because the guy who he hurt himself while he was using his axe. So that's why we said niskal. But really, we don't really mean that he has to stumble over it. He would really be exempt even if he broke it on purpose. Amalei Rab Abba Ravashi. Rab Abba says to Ravashi. In Eretz Yisrael, they taught it like this: Mishmei Rab Ula, Mishmei Rab Eloi. The whole premise is wrong. The premise was that why is the person exempt for breaking something in the public property? He should be looking where he's going. In Eretz Yisrael, they said people do not need to look where they're going. You have to make sure that the road is clear.
You mean butter? Sorry, you mean holy? Not something.
It's clear from anything that could break.
This goes against the pit, because we said that the person sees the pit and is able to avoid it. So then that's why you don't have to pay if a person falls to the pit, but an animal we do.
Taisus asks your question, Hillel. He says, it says in the Mishnah that if there's a shor that falls into a pit, if it's by day, he's exempt. Because an ox is always looking down, and an ox does look where he's going. He looks more where than a person looks, because a person can be looking up. Yeah, it really, I looked up to Yerushalmi once, that where it says in Eretz Yisrael, they taught this. And but there I saw that there's a discussion if streets are clean or not. Is it normal for streets to be clean? In Eretz Yisrael, apparently streets are clean. So people don't need to look where they're going because the streets are clean. But it could be in Babel, the streets were more dirty. People do have to look. That's why they were answering it differently. You always have to look. It depends on what's going on in the streets. Yeah.
Where does it say that? That was in Yerushalmi?
Yeah, I looked it up. It doesn't say it like exactly as what it says here. It says it a little bit different. It has to do with the nature of the streets. Was the discussion.
Does the Balvi ever comment on the Yerushalmi that came first?
Well, over here you do have that. You have Pachi Amri Marava. So they said in the West. The West means Eretz Yisrael. It's West for Babel.
I just want to say, like here, you never see the streets clean. But over in Hollywood by the boardwalk and the beach, every morning trucks come out, totally clean, all the beach sand,
Right.
seaweed, and then they have these like the New York trucks.
They
with
come
the
around on
round
the
brushes.
street.
No, on the boardwalk.
Oh.
And they brush the whole boardwalk clean every morning and empty the garbage cans.
Wow.
I mean, so some
Uh-huh.
places keep it clean,
Right.
some don't.
The Gemara says,
I know
have you
they tried to-
ever been Nardai? There was a story actually in Nardai. Now Shmuel was the Rav in Nardai. There was a story where someone broke something and it was in the middle of the day. The Chi of Shmuel said the person's chayav to pay for what he broke. It was in the middle of the street and he broke it. The Pumpadisa, the Chi of Rava. The story in Pumpadisa makes more sense if it's Rabba, because Rabba lived in Mechuzah. Rabba wasn't Pumpadisa. But and Rabba said he's chayav. Bishlam Shmuel Kishmaite. According to Shmuel, we understand why. Because Shmuel said, when is he exempt? Only at night. This was during the day. During the day, you're supposed to watch where you're going. The Mishnah was talking about at night. That's why you were exempt. Ella Rava, Lema Shmuel, really, do you want to say that he holds that you're only exempt? The whole Mishnah is only talking about at night. Rav Papa says, Kana da Atzrahavi. This was actually outside an olive press. Given the Bishus Kavdi, where over there you're allowed to leave your barrels. So there, really, I hold that you never have to look where you're going. And if you break something, you're exempt. But this was a case where this was right outside the olive press, where everyone puts their barrels. In this area, people have permission to put their barrels. Over here, you have to look where you're going. Yeah. Shalach le Rav Chisda Rav Nachman. Rav Chisda sent the question to Rav Nachman. Hari Amru, it said, which means the sages have said, the Rakufa, talking about payment for embarrassment. If someone kicks someone with his knee, he knees him. So Shalish, he has to pay 3 coins. How much is 3 sela, I guess? That's how embarrassing that is. Lebeit, if he kicks him with his foot, Chumash, he has to pay 5 coins. Listenay Keres, I like the pshat if he hits him with his fist. Shalish Esrei, he has to pay 13 coins. Now it has to do with how many joints there are. If he hits him with his knee, so there's 3. There's the upper leg, lower leg, and then the knee. So he has to pay 3. If he, with his foot, there's 5 toes. With his finger, with his fist, so then there's 13 joints because the thumb is on the side. I hope. So then there's only 13. You don't have the 14th, right? The yad is 14. There's 14 joints in the knuckles. 14. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or
if you just count.
all right. So the or snakeres could mean a saddle. Anyway, that's the price for embarrassment if someone hits someone. Gemara asks, Rav Chisda is asking Rav Nachman, what would be the embarrassment price if someone hits someone with an axe or or either the handle of the axe or the blade of the axe or a hoe or something? What's the din? So Shalach Le, Rav Nachman responds, Chisda. It's like my friend Chisda. You're collecting fines in Bavel. You can only collect fines. A fine is a payment that's not restitution. It's just it's a penalty. We don't do penalties in Bavel. You need smicha for that. Tell me what exactly happened. How is this coming about? So Shalach Le, he sends him there was a well that belonged to 2 people. Every day, one person would be allowed to take water. It was like a cistern. You would take the water out every day. One person could use it. Asachad, one came. He's taking water on Wednesday. His day was supposed to be Thursday. Amalei, the guy says, today's not your day. He totally ignores him. So Shakal Panda Demara Mechai, he takes the handle of the axe and he starts to hit him. Amalei, so Rav Nachman says, Mea Pandi Bepanda Lemechai. He's allowed to hit him 100 times. Even according to the opinion that says that you're not allowed to take the law into your own hands. But if there's a loss, you're allowed to take the law into your own hands, and you're allowed to take what's yours, what's rightfully yours. You're allowed to take the itzmar. It was stated. Rav Yehuda says, this is Rav Yehuda by Yecheskel. He says the person's not allowed to take the law into his own hands. Rav Nachman says you are allowed to take the law into your own hands. If there's going to be a loss, even Rav Yehuda holds that you're allowed to take the law into your own hands. When do they argue? When there's no loss. Rav Yehuda says, don't do any law on your own. What should you do? Given lakab say the laser coming down. There's no loss. Just go to court. They'll take care of it in court. You'll get whatever you're owed. Rav Nachman says you're still allowed to take the law into your own hands, given the bedin of it, since you know that the item is yours. We don't make you go to court. The halacha is, I believe, like Rav Nachman. I believe it's like Rav Nachman. Okay.
That's
Good
a
day, everyone.
machmir.
I had trouble following. What happened to the argument against Chizda?